The next chapter of our East Coast family road trip begins with us packing up the van in PEI and hitting the road once again. Day 6, we drove back across the Confederation Bridge and turned towards Nova Scotia. The Cabot Trail would be where we would spend the next 4 days, but first, we made a stop at the Museum of Industry in Stellarton, Nova Scotia. This was another one of our attempts to add in educational aspects to the trip, and it certainly was. We were very impressed with this museum and had so much fun exploring and learning about how industry has influenced the history and landscape of Canada. We then finished the day by driving to the beginning of the Cabot Trail and spent the night in Bedeque. When researching this part of the trip, I was so intrigued by the promise of amazing views, and already it was delivering big. The next morning, after a quick breakfast at a local cafe, we walked down to the Alexander Graham Bell Museum to learn more about all his inventions and how he and his wife and their friends influenced the way we communicate. As much as these stops were about homeschooling the kids, we adults learned a lot too. There is so much I had either forgotten or just never learned myself through my educational journey. We then began to drive around the trail with a stop at one of the many viewpoints along the way. It's a good thing there were many of these opportunities to pull over on these windy roads, because they were starting to affect a few of us who experienced a bit of motion sickness as we drove. Didn't mind though, as these points were worth stopping at. Our next stop was to hike the Cabot Trail in Cape Breton National Park. It wasn't the easiest of trails, with a few steep sections and many stones and roots that were tripping hazards, as we did see one man trip and tumble down one section, but we made the trek out to the viewpoint, looking out over the Atlantic Ocean. It was magnificent and invigorating. We then made our way to the cottage for the night. The kids were in the mood for a beach, so we went out searching for one. The water on the ocean side was too rough, and the other side that advertised as a local beach wasn't much of a beach, but it was still a nice place to go and take an evening stroll. Once back at our cottage, we settled in for the night. Dale and Cooper did some whittling, and a few of us worked on our trip journals, and then we turned in. It wasn't the best night of sleep for everyone, but it was only one night, and then we headed farther along the trail. We didn't make it far the next morning before pulling over. A quick stop at Leahy's Head. You could really take your time and stop frequently, but as we only had 4 days, we had to be a little selective. It was so amazing to watch the waves crashing against the rocks. There was a tropical storm, Hurricane Earl, hitting off the coast of Newfoundland at the time, which was affecting the power of the water around the trail as well. Watching the movement of the water is one of my favorite activities. It so soothes and calms me, even when the waters themselves aren't tranquil. We drove farther along the trail to Macintosh Brook Trail in Cape Breton National Park. It was a quick and easy hike, but had a huge payout at the end. The majestic waterfall was even more stunning, with the sun beaming down the flowing water. We had a lot of fun playing in the forest and splashing in the water at the base of the falls. And this trail was definitely worth stopping for. Our next stop was at the Whale Interpretive Center, where we learned more about the whales and other aquatic life in the oceans of Atlantic Canada. Another great opportunity to continue our learning journey. Our final stop of the day was at the popular Skyline Trail. We didn't walk the whole thing as it was getting pretty late, and it was the second walk of the day, which was a bit much for some. But we still made it to a few of the viewpoints and got a glimpse as to why this was such a popular spot. It was a pretty flat and easy walk, but it is longer in duration, which is fine when you have the stamina and time. It open for you. On our way to our Airbnb for the night, we made an impromptu stop at Block Beach to play in the water once again. It's just so hard to stay out of it, and was one of our favorite activities during our trip. You can't be this close to the ocean and by this much water without stopping once in a while to enjoy. We ended our day by settling into our Airbnb in Cheticamp and heading to one of the restaurants in town for a yummy dinner, and then walking along the harbor. This is such a cute little town, which we get to explore more the next day. We were supposed to do a whale watching tour this morning, but due to the effects of the storm, it was unsafe for boats to go out, so it was being delayed, and they were able to book us in the next morning instead. As we had been on the road now for a week, and it was action-packed, we decided to take it easy this day. So we went for a late breakfast, chilled for a bit, and then headed for a quick hike to the Gypsum Mine. It was a great swimming spot and a beautiful place to just sit and relax for the afternoon. It was nice to kind of have a slower paced day to recharge us for the next half of our trip. We went back to the same restaurant for dinner before a leisurely walk through town and a quick play at the park. The next morning, though, the weather had not changed enough, so again, our whale excursion was canceled. We were all disappointed, but we still had a lot of good things planned, so we just packed up and moved on towards Halifax, which was our next destination and the beginning of our final chapter of our trip.